Hello, everybody. We are here once again. This time we will talk about knife, and we will talk about a specific method or research of knife fighting. We have the pleasure for the first time to have with us Mr. Nigel Febrary. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Nigel, how did you start to play martial arts, and how and why you started training knife?
Okay, so this year it would be 35 years in the martial arts. I started with kickboxing and then Aikido and then a little bit of Taekwondo because of my kicking abilities. And then that was when my father was training me, and my late father. So his family is Native American Indian. They're from the island of St. Vincent. So
Okay.
his first name is Vincent. So they've only arrived in South Africa in the year 1900. And so he had two brothers as well. Their father was a butcher, so they knew about knives since their birth. So I was taught how to use the knife but that was just as a utility tool. Yeah, of course, they teach you how to use the blade, saber grip, reverse grip. But like I said, that is the type of things that you learn if you deal with killing animals and preparing meat and so on. But then my martial arts was a separate thing. Like I said, I did Aikido, kickboxing, Taekwondo. Then in 1992, I did Kung Fu, 5 animal style in Cape Town. And then I really enjoyed that. And then that was 1992. 93, I started Silat. My late father taught me that. And now we have to also understand that while Silat wasn't top,
What Silat? What style of
sorry.
Silat? What style of Penchak Silat?
Well, I didn't know the proper style, but all I know is because it was bits and pieces. Because remember, the Malays has been in Cape Town since the 1500s, so they've been here longer than even some of the black tribes have been in South Africa. So they, like I said, the 1500s they've been here, so they brought their Silat with them. So my style looked more like Bukti Negara than anything else because it favored the heavier guy, not the smaller Indonesian or Malaysian guy. But so my father, they were all big guys, and so it looked a lot more like that. And I dabbled in, this was 93, so we're looking at American Kenpo, and then some Filipino martial arts, which I enjoyed a lot more than the Silat because I felt FMA was just a little bit more flowing, a little bit more boxing based. The rhythm and timing was better because of the stick fighting that you learn. It seems to be more real time when you play. Problem with Silat is that there's just too much. The postures is a bit of a problem if you're a guy that's 1.86 meters. That's like 6'2". So it's difficult for guys that tall to be doing these low postures and and so I enjoyed the Filipino the stick work a lot more. Did some of the knife stuff as well, and what I discovered from 91 onwards was that the way the knife was being used on the Cape Flats was very different to the way it was being represented in the dojos. So if you look at the way the attacker, the uki, was being portrayed in the dojo, it looked very different to the way they moved on the Cape Flats. It had a very African way of moving. The rhythm and timing was different. So that's when I started doing the research, not because I love knives. I did the research because conventional martial arts wasn't answering or able to handle this type of knife method. And then I discovered by accident that there was an actual method or style hidden inside the gang culture, which they themselves didn't really know. And that's when I started to find out that the Silat that was brought to Cape Town 500 years ago blended with the Zulu and the Xhosa stick fighting. In other words, the migrant black tribes that came from the north and they settled in Cape Town. That's when that mixture happened. So those were the two parent arts that gave birth to this method. Now, PIPER is the name of the research that has all these different techniques and elements. So it's like a Frankenstein's monster. You're taking movements from like 50 different men. So what you see as PIPER today is not one person doing that movement. That is the movement of 50 different guys in one person. See, so nobody's doing PIPER on the Cape Flats. PIPER is the name of the research.
Okay.
You see, so as you know, as long as people understand it's a method now after 28 years. So PIPER is that old now, 28 years.
And so you started also. What style of Filipino martial arts did you train?
Oh no, it's 12 pares.
Okay.
And again, the Pikiti tertius from whoever visited my father. So whatever guy was training with him, I just used to pick it up, whoever was there. So I wasn't trained in a Filipino martial arts school because those things never existed.
Okay.
Because remember,
Okay.
I grew up during the apartheid days, so a lot of these things were withheld from us.
Do you think Pekiti Tircha maybe is more similar to the PIPER than the
No,
Dosepare to use the knife?
No, Pikiti tertius is actually Filipino knife fighting. I believe Pikiti, like if you got these different styles of eskrima, kali, different knife methods, but Pikiti tertius is actually Filipino knife fighting. Like that's your main branch, and I believe everything else just comes from that in the Philippines. PIPER is different because of the African influence. You see the rhythm and the timing is different. And the other thing is that when I learned, or when I put this together, I learned from criminals who've actually killed with it. And if you come to the Cape Flats now, while the gun crime has escalated, you still find people dying in exactly the same way using the same method. So South Africa is predominantly reverse grip culture. Like nobody uses the grip nobody holds a knife in saber grip in South Africa. If anybody's going to get stabbed today, it's reverse grip only.
Okay, you mean ice pick grip?
Yeah, what you call pakal, that's only that grip. Nobody uses saber grip. So that's why PIPER is only reverse grip or ice pick grip, because it reflects the what the criminals are doing.
So
it's not like my personal style.
Do you have a knife with you there?
Let me just give you. Because I actually had a PIPER class before this. Yeah. Let me just. Okay.
I took my training knife also, so if I have to ask you something about the grip or stuff, also the people that is not accustomed to some names like Pakal, Saksak, they know what we are talking about. So
Yeah.
you were explaining that there is no hammer grip like this. You don't handle the grip,
Yeah.
the
Nobody.
knife like that.
Yeah. So nobody holds the knife like this. The only time they hold the knife like this is when they're cutting dead flesh. So the animal must already be dead, and that's when you use this grip. But if you're going to kill something, you hold this grip, because most of your body weight can get transferred onto this, onto the point of this blade. This is the strongest grip because because the large muscle, the large muscles in the upper body, like the back, is powering this grip, not this. I can hold my body weight. If I have two of these blades and I stick it against the wall, I can actually support my body weight. That's how you know which is the stronger grip. I can stab and then pull and control something heavy. Right. So I'm just explaining what the difference between the grips. This is your predatory grip. This is the one that is the easiest to do. You don't even need to learn how to do this. This is the one. This is the one that actually changes your breathing. It changes. It makes you like an animal.
Mm-hmm. Can you explain the difference between the Piper and the Libre?
Well, Libre was started by Scott Babb in 2006. It wasn't a style in 2004. Libre was the name of the FMA school that Scott had, and then his teacher retired and then gave him the school. Libre became a style in 2006. That's when I met him. So Libre has got a lot of Filipino stuff, but Scott has since added some research into criminal knife from the Mexican culture. Again, I influence a lot of the what you see these modern day systems, specifically because nobody wanted to touch the criminal aspect of the knife, and that's why you see Libre have some Piper influence in it in some of the techniques. Right, so it's predominantly things like what the Mexican gangs are doing, or the Latin American gangs inside Mexico and inside US. That was the idea behind what Libre became.
Okay, can you tell us
so every other knife system. So outside of the Filipino martial arts, Piper would be the alternate. It's actually the alternate knife system.
Yeah. Usually, when we talk about knife fighting from the 90s, we knew that there was also a way to train the knife inside the weapon-based fighting systems like the Filipinos or also the European. Did you meet sometime some European style like Italians, for example, or from east side of Europe or from Spain? Something interesting that you see and wow, this is cool.
Well, the only time I've met the Italian knife method was that was in the I think 2010, 2011. That's when when social media started happening, when I started traveling to the UK to teach Piper there. That's when I saw some of this Italian stuff. I judge the knife, because remember, I'm not a knife guy, I'm an empty hand guy. That's the reason why I put the system together, so that I can get empty hand knife defenses. That was the whole purpose, right? So I don't go around with 1,000 knives on me. I wanted to find out how to defeat the system. And then, so when I look at any other knife system, the only thing I'm looking at is how many people has this type of method killed. So the military is right at the bottom. The criminals are right on top because they have the highest body count. And then, as a civilian, I want to know, how did the criminals survive court? The legal aspects. So when you teach, the knife is already a criminal's weapon. The knife is the only weapon that has survived for thousands of years of evolution. I'm talking about weapons evolution. Once the gunpowder was invented, that's when the sword was no longer used, the bow and arrow was no longer used, the spear, the shield, horseback, cavalry, it wasn't used anymore because the gun replaced everything. But the knife is still the only weapon that went as far back as even before the medieval periods. You're looking at BC, that's how old the blade is. So its function wasn't for the battlefield. Its function was multi-purpose. Like, it was used in commerce, in trading, in skinning, hunting, farming, agriculture, making clothes. assassins and criminals and thugs used the blade. So it was used by a variety of people. But in modern day society,
We
criminals are
all
using it the
we
most.
all have we all have at least 20 knives in our house in the kitchen. So it's always there. The
Yes.
knife is everywhere. There was a friend who came into my podcast. We were talking about Filipino martial art. Basically, he told me he has a friend in Rome, and this friend has a knife shop. It's about shears, knives, and all that kind of stuff. He told him that every month he sells 2,500 knives each month in Rome, just one shop. It's incredible.
Mm.
Can you tell me the name? Why the name Piper? What does it mean?
Well, Piper is Piper is the English spelling of a Dutch word or Afrikaans word actually. Um, it's actually spelled Pyper or paper. That's how it's pronounced, right? And all that means pipe is a colloquial term for a slang term for a gun or a knife. So if you say the pipe men are coming or those are pipe men, it means those are guys who are carrying a weapon. It was first called that for the knives, and now a pipe man is anybody that has a firearm. But when somebody is going to pipe somebody, it's literally a word that means to stab. It's a present term. If I'm going to piper you, I'm going to stab you. That's literally what that word means. So I adopted the word. It was first called Hidden Thorn when my father was alive, and then 3 months after he died, I changed it to Piper. Because that's when I did most of the gang research. He was never going to let me do that while he was alive because his late brother died in a gang fight. 60 men killed him. It was two
Mhm.
gangs fighting, and then he got into the middle of it. So he had nothing but like hatred for criminals or gang members. And so obviously, he would not have seen what I was doing as helpful, because he believed in training, like wrestling, because he was a wrestler and a boxer, and he also used the blade. He actually killed people with a knife. Him and his brothers. Before my uncle died, he killed 3 men and critically injured 6 before he died. Like that's the type of life that they led.
Mhm. Uh, you talked about something legal 10 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago. I would like to ask you something about what is the legislation uh, in South Africa? Can you carry a knife with you? Can you enter into a disco, a bar, or something, a cinema, or something like that with your knife? And can you
Well,
have a
the
daga,
the,
daga
the law.
also, pugnal, or just a knife?
Well, here's the thing. Most institutions, it's like in Europe, most institutions, you can't enter with a weapon of any kind. Firearms need to be checked in. Knife is definitely out.
Yeah.
You can carry a knife like outside, like in the street. But when the police stop you randomly, they can take the knife from you. Although it's legal to carry, they could still take the knife from you and arrest you. It's still um, it's still it's still within their capabilities, but you can't go into any event with a blade because the knife crime is so high in South Africa, and the South African police themselves are losing their lives to knife crime. Besides gun crime, they get stabbed for the sidearms. You can't enter any of these private or public institutions. You will be searched. Airport, same thing. Um, because the amount of damage knives have done to our culture. So, I mean, we lose about 350 policemen a year. That's how much police deaths we have per year.
Do you can you carry a knife into a a concert, music concert?
No, but they do smuggle them in. You can't carry a knife into a concert, but people smuggle the knives in through the
Yeah.
they'll put it in the purse of their girlfriend or their wife, so they'll carry it in that way.
Okay.
Somebody was killed or stabbed to death say 2 years ago at a music festival. So it's easy to smuggle the knives in. People they don't actually care about the law. They'll just find a way. Look, if you have the intent to stab somebody, breaking the law, carrying an illegal weapon is not impossible. Like anybody that's able to steal, anybody that's able to murder can lie. Like that's not an issue for them. So our laws are just as strict in terms of carrying the blade into these venues like it is in Europe and the US. It's just people will do it anyways.
Okay. We were talking about the grip, the handle, the way you use the knife. I would like to ask you, what kind of knife do you prefer? Do you have a shape of knife that for you is perfect for what you do?
Well, the difference between the material, like hidden thorn was like part of the material I learned from my father, and then which he learned from his family, and part of the Silat and the PIPER or the criminal stuff. So hidden thorn was the original name for my research. What I've discovered why I like PIPER a little bit more was that you could use anything, not a specific knife. That's why I like training PIPER. You could use anything that doesn't have an edge, because stabbing is what kills. Stabbing is something that is better than a slash, because a stab is like a bullet, hitting your body. It penetrates. So anything that penetrates your organs, that is how you die. And the other thing that I like about the method, what I've noticed from my research, is that they don't require multiple stabs to kill you. They hit you once, and that's it. So our culture is so refined that they could hit you once and you will die. You don't see multiple stab wounds on the bodies here. They'll hit you once, and that's not even skill. Skill is missing the target. That is skill in South Africa. So that's why this is a highly advanced knife culture, because everybody has the skill to kill you with one blow. You don't need multiple stabs, all over the place.
But you prefer, for example, a long knife or a really short knife?
Yeah.
What is
No,
for you?
I'll train with anything. I just don't like folders. I don't like the okapi. I don't like any knife that is a folder, because there's too much that can go wrong with that. So I always train with, like, this blade, for instance, was a kitchen knife, but this knife is more than 23 years old. This was taken from a criminal up in the Northern Cape. So all the knives that I train with are all confiscated blades that I got from the police. So I train with this blade easily. I train with this is what I use for my my classes. So this would be the longest knife that you could possibly want to use comfortably. So it's a steak knife. So any steak knife would be the perfect length, because it's not a folder, and the blade is used to cutting meat or dealing with meat and protein stains, which is blood. See,
So
so
you don't like
I would say
folder. You don't like the folder knives.
no. What I did for a living was I worked with human blood for 18 years. So I made biomedicine. So I worked with human blood, and saw the damage blood does to rivets and pieces of metal. So and I've lost so many knives because of things like when you mix blood and sweat from your palm. The locking mechanisms of these folders, they get damaged because of the blood. It's very corrosive, right? So that's one of the reasons why I don't like folders, because I've seen what blood does to these types of things. These mechanisms are too intricate. So one of these blades, perfect, because the knife doesn't need to be opened and then presented.
Okay. Can you show me the other knife, the training knife that you got, the wooden one?
Oh well, so this is a trainer I got overseas, because in South Africa, people train with real blades. That's part of the culture. So if you train PIPER in South Africa, everybody uses real knives. But because I've been traveling since 2008, I've had to start using trainers. But I prefer the trainer when I'm traveling. But again, the culture, it's based specifically on using a real blade, right? So I use this trainer because it's the perfect length that you would need. It's not too long and it's not too short. Some guys prefer these little, tiny little blades, little picks that they have. Others prefer, something like a little dagger. So I use this to indicate the shape of what I would consider the best, or the most legal blade, or the most functional blade. So you'll see that I'm not using a particular knife brand. I'm just using a template of what I would consider a comfortable blade to use. So it's not, there's no product or anything. This guy just carved it out of wood.
Nigel, that's a dagger.
Right. So
can you have a dagger in your house in South Africa?
Yeah, you could have a dagger, you could have a katana, you could have everything, as long as you, like for instance, I can't carry this outside, but I can stab somebody inside the house because it's my house. So we have a law that is similar to Miami, Florida, where it's the stand your ground law, where you could defend yourself with these types of weapons, but as long as it's inside the house on your property, because this knife belongs in the kitchen. But if I'm walking outside with this knife, I don't have a reason for carrying the blade.
Yeah.
You see, so as long as it's inside the house, then it it shouldn't be that much of a problem.
Can you pick up this last knife that you had in your hand? Can you handle that? Can you show us?
Which one? This one?
This one. You use the ice pick grip, the pakal.
Yes.
How do you handle that? The blade is outside or inside? Do you have a difference? Do you train both?
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all, because the third most used tool, or the third most used weapon in South Africa, so it will be the okapi, scissors, and a screwdriver. So those are the three main killers in South Africa. So my question is always, is the screwdriver edge in or edge out?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. This kills the tip. That's what kills. The edge, that's irrelevant. This is for cutting. This, like I said, you could kill with a pen, because it's just the tip that needs to enter. You just need enough pressure to break skin. Once you break skin, you can then push it through. So whether you hold it like this, edge out or edge in, it's irrelevant, because your crime statistics will tell you, and you'll see how the people are stabbed. That will tell you it was the tip that killed, not this, because you need to penetrate the body. You need to penetrate the cavity, especially with the neck. See, you'll survive in court if you stab somebody in the neck, but if you cut somebody, it's a lot more difficult for you, because the courts only recognizes when the throat is cut. That is murder, which meant they assume the person was tied up or he was held, and then they slit his throat. That's why I don't like these knife styles that are cutting towards the throat. They're slashing. They're doing these types of slashing, because again, it's going to be a lot more difficult. Remember, when you use the knife, it's already illegal. The minute you use a knife against another person, it's already illegal. You can't dress that up any other way, because you have to prove in court after the stabbing that it was self-defense. You can't claim self-defense and say it's over. The courts will decide if it was self-defense. And if they start seeing a cut across the throat, you're going to jail for that. That's not, and you can't have 17 stab wounds on the guy's body and then claim it's self-defense. You allow a maximum of 2 at least. 1, 2.
Okay.
So what I've learned from the criminals, for instance, when they stab, and that's why I try to copy what they did, because these guys sometimes won't even go to jail or prison. You know, the reason why these criminals go to jail is because they were repeat offenders. That's why they go to jail. They don't go to jail for their first stabbing. It's the 3rd, 4th, and 5th time. That's the reason why they'll end up in prison. So you'll see in PIPER, for instance.
Go. Sorry, I thought you were.
So in PIPER, when they do a stab to the neck, they don't need to do any other kind of damage here because they've already aimed properly. Now you see the body. If the guy dies, you see it's only 1 wound. Now it's already going to be a problem for you. But the fact that there wasn't multiple stab wounds will tell the judge that it was more closer to self-defense than an unprovoked attack, because you're going to look like the attacker. His body shows signs of multiple stab, and this is my only criticism of Filipino martial arts is the fact that they start cutting on the arm and the hand. There's cuts on the arm and the hand, and that's illegal. Those are called defense wounds. So PIPER will always try to not hit the limbs. They'll go directly to the heart, and they'll go to the carotid. They target those limited targets specifically because they don't want to have 100 stab wounds on the body, because you cannot claim self-defense. That's what you're going to want, right? That's if you're using the blade in self-defense.
Do you have some European students?
Most of my students are from Europe. I had a few from London, a lot of Germans. I've got 2 from France. I think there's, like I said, Germany is quite busy. France only started up again. There are few from Canada, few from America. South America has a few. I'm hosting South American, a guy from Chile. He's grading in March. He's coming to South Africa. But Europe is there's quite a few people in Europe. I think Holland is a few. Bulgaria, there's quite a large group there. Hungary, there's a group that is also growing. So there's quite a few Europeans, and I think the attraction for the Europeans specifically is because of the influx of migrants from third world countries that have knife cultures. So you'll see that these European countries are not really equipped to deal with that level of blade culture. So they'll take something like PIPER that comes from a third world country, and train in that. Okay. So that's one of the reasons.
I asked you this question because you were talking about law in South Africa. So the judges judge the way you hit by the stabs and the cut. So the cut can be not self-defense, can be offense. But if you come to Europe, do you have to adapt something because the law and the legislation is different?
But here's the thing, though. You must remember our legal system is the Dutch Roman law system. So our legal system is a European legal system. The EU is affecting a lot in South Africa. If it's not, because remember, South Africa was a member of the Commonwealth. We're a British colony.
Yeah.
So everything is either Britain or it's EU. I was in pharmaceuticals for 18 to 23 years, and everything we did was by EU standards. So even our law is reflected in that. So what you see in South Africa would be similar to Western Europe, the Western Europe legal system.
Okay.
You see, for instance, I'll give an example. We still have the old British measuring system for what is a legal knife, which is 4 centimeters. So what they do is it was during the apartheid years they had it as well. So they'll take a knife and then in other words, the edge shouldn't come past my palm, for instance, right? Now that would be this knife would be considered illegal because it is not level with my hand breadth, like the palm breadth. So that's an old British thing that they still haven't removed from our legal system, which was for the edge, not for the tip, because again you had a different legal system here. So we don't have what they call an African legal system. It's European.
Oh, okay. Do you can we talk about something more technical? I would like to ask you if you have first of all, do you have a guard position or stuff like that, or do you usually start from scratch, like this position, or hands down, or you start to train all the movements starting from your pockets, stuff like that? I mean, you train imagining a street situation every time, or you also start your training like a guard, like some kind of boxing stance?
No, so we don't. In PIPER, there's no. Although knife dueling amongst the gangsters is when I did my research. I did a lot of research during the times when gangs were fighting each other with a knife, right? Not when they were mugging. When I met Lloyd de Jong, he was my first PIPER student. He had more experience with being mugged and seeing people getting mugged, right? But I grew up in an environment where there was just gang on gang violence. So one of the things that I've learned through the years was, and you'll notice for the last 28 years, I've always been training with the blade already out. I don't train drawing the blade. That knife needs to be in your hands already. Anytime there's an altercation, that knife should already be in your hand. You shouldn't be waiting until people start pulling things, because we're living in a social environment where these things they tend to build up, and even if it's a surprise, that knife you should already be carrying this blade in what we call socially accepted posture. So I normally have my guys start in this position. I can do this with a big blade and hide it as well, right? So so again, this is how we start. Then you move in, stab, and then the blade goes back to 0. The reason for that is I started doing research with PIPER in 1991. There was no internet. There was no cell phones even in that period. There was no surveillance. 2024, 2025, we have surveillance everywhere. So having you stand like this with a blade is going to get you prosecuted a lot faster. That's why you'll see with PIPER being taught to Europe, they are hiding their knife a lot more than the South Africans. The South Africans will have a lot more of these types of movements that are very visible because of our culture. The African culture is a very overt culture, like peacocks. We want to show you that we are fighting. In Europe, you have to start learning from the ambush position, right? Learn to actually hide the blade after you stab. Because you have so much CCTV cameras, people with cell phones, drones, you've got even Wi-Fi routers that are able to monitor you. Even right now, this podcast that we have is being monitored by an AI algorithm. So the European style of PIPER is a lot more close guarded. In South Africa, they're doing a lot more overt movements because the culture reflects that, right? But if you go to, let's say it's it's done in Italy or France or Spain, you'd have to hide this blade specifically because some of these countries you can't even carry the knife. London or the UK, everything is, all blades are banned. Even in your house, it's banned. That's how bad it's getting.
Yeah, there are some
Right.
knives,
So
some blades. I cannot take it. I cannot have it in my house. For example,
yeah,
double blade knives, a pugnal or a dagger. I cannot have it. I must go to the police and declare that I have that kind of knife. Put a sign, and they have to decide if you can take it or not. It depends also if I'm okay, if I already had some problems with the law or not. So
yeah,
also you see, I have some katanas there. I can have katana with no sharp blade. If I
yeah.
sharpen the blade, I must go to the police and say that my katana is have the edge. Otherwise, I cannot have it.
Well, the only reason why the police don't care over here, when you have those, like when you buy a knife, you just buy a knife, right? No matter
Yeah.
what knife you have, you can own anything. Is that we have 57 million people living in South Africa, but we only have 146,000 policemen to protect and can govern all 57 million. That's how little policemen we have.
Okay.
So they are pretty stretched.
Nigel, also that you handle your knife with your right hand. Are you right-handed?
I'm right-handed, but I work left as well. I can work both sides
I wanted
because
to know that.
Lloyd is left-handed.
You start with your right, and then you train or also with the left. How does it work?
Okay, so what you do is, if you're going to learn a new skill, you first train the dominant hand.
Yeah.
Then you train the weaker hand by mirroring the dominant hand. You don't train like this and then switch and then train like this. What you do is you will train both hands now, because the left hand is the weaker hand, will then copy this hand. So that's how you are able to move easily, because the left hand is just copying what the right hand is doing. So these things are already built in. That's how I've been training, because my father was ambidextrous. He could work left and right. So I was raised that way. So I can work left and right. The only thing I can't do with my left hand is I can't write properly with my left hand. But my right and my left is actually, you can't really tell the difference. I can feel the difference, but you can't really tell. Even if I switch, you won't be able to, you won't be able to tell what I'm doing. That's how I'm able to work with guys that are right-handed and guys that are left-handed.
Okay. We talked about the handle. We talked about the shape of the knife. I would like to ask you also if you have some training, knife versus empty hands. If you train also the empty hands against the knife, or just knife versus knife, how does it work?
No, so the like I said, I've been doing it the PIPER 28 years old this year. So the idea was to build a knife defense, but the problem with PIPER is that it's the apex of all your knife attacks, like the apex of all your knife, or say knife attacks found within the martial arts. There isn't anything as vicious as PIPER, so you're always going to lose. And the problem in the martial arts is that people want to win, and they want to do a disarm in training, and they want to win at the disarm. They want to get it right. The problem is they are controlling the knife attack to suit the technique, to suit the defense. With the knife, and this is how, like I said, I've got some ideas as to how to stop PIPER, but it's very limited, meaning that you only have one window of opportunity to do it. You don't have a whole controlling section. As soon as the guy attacks, there's a but so we don't use or grab anything when the blade comes in. We use an elbow to actually jam inside and strike to the throat as fast as we can. You cannot restrain something that moves like this. You see, because there's no knife disarm that can handle a blade that's coming out this fast and then gets retracted. Remember, any knife disarm has to be actually catches you on your retraction. If it doesn't stop you here, it's going to get you round about here is where the knife disarm is going to have to catch you. But the problem with reverse grip or hammer grip is it is dangerous on the way back. Saber grip is dangerous on the way towards the opponent or the target, right? And that's the difference between the two. It's a big fundamental change between saber grip and reverse grip. It's very different. So the knife defense for both will be different. So I will do knife versus knife and then knife and empty hand, right? And that's essentially because that's why I did the research in the first place was knife versus empty hand. And it's very difficult to do. It's like I'm telling you, I don't have a system that is complete because PIPER is just too dangerous at that range. So I'm honest regarding that. Like even I can't stop it. And this is what people need to understand. This is the one fight you can't win. Like at that range, like PIPER's effective in clinch range. In other words, in elbow range. Outside of that, you still have a chance. But once this thing gets this close, it's over. Okay. And that's including me. I won't be able to get to handle that space.
Okay. Do you usually have single classes or also groups, small groups? How do you handle the training?
Well, in South Africa, I don't do groups anymore. I closed those schools down years ago. That was all before, I say, after COVID. Then everything changed. So I just teach one-on-one now. I just do certification to PIPER instructors and whatever higher grades after that. But this is a specialized skill, so I only do groups if it's a seminar. You know, okay. So you can't, like, I don't have a class of students, you know, doing PIPER because the minimum that you would need for such a class is a black belt in other systems. So you must be a martial artist in other martial arts in order to train PIPER. But the thing is, and that's in South Africa, the thing is the Europeans and the Americans automatically qualify because you guys are doing multi-style systems. All of these are skilled in other systems. Nobody comes to me and say this PIPER is the only thing they've done. Like there isn't, like the Europeans don't do it, the Americans don't do it. You guys already have belts or grades in other methods. So that's what I'm actually looking for.
Okay. This is Max. Nigel, this is Max. Max, this is Nigel. Nigel, this is a guy. Max, we don't hear you. Nigel, this is the guy that introduced me to you, that spoke me about you.
Can you hear me?
About the PIPER.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Nigel, do you hear Max?
Nigel, nice to meet you.
Hi, Max.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man.
Max, we were talking about.
Sorry for the delay.
No problem. I know that for you it was a little early. Maybe you were working. Some people
family matters. On to the matter, usual things.
Okay. I asked Nigel about the curriculum and the history of his research and how PIPER was born. And now we were talking about, I also asked something about the shape of the knife. And I was talking with him about the technical aspects, like the grips and the stance. And if you train both hands, left and right, and stuff like that. So we were talking about, stabbing with the ice pick grip, because he explained me that there is the ice pick grip. He prefers the ice pick grip. he doesn't train with a hammer grip, right,
Okay.
Nigel? You never train with the hammer with your
Well,
knife
no,
like that.
I personally train both grips. No. I personally train with both grips, but in Piper, it's only reverse grip. It's because
Okay.
all the criminals use one grip. They only stab this way. They don't
That's
hold
it.
the knife like this. Nowhere in South Africa does anybody hold a knife like this.
Okay.
Now they hold a machete like that.
And I would like
Knife,
to,
knife.
Max, do you want to ask something or you want to think about for some minutes?
I'll hold back
Do you
for a
have some
second.
curiosities?
No, Piper very interests me, but the question perhaps you already covered that during the previous talk when you talk about the history, and the technical very interests me because I've been looking around. Yeah, so I do barrel subo, so it's very defensed against the knife. But it's funny enough, we always start with what we call pakal, the reverse grip. So exactly for the same reason that you said, the criminal.
Max, Nigel told me that he trains some Doce Pares and some Pekiti Tirsha in South
Okay.
Africa. Go ask something. I have some questions, but maybe it takes time. So I would like you first to ask something.
Yeah, okay. No, I don't want to stop you the flow, but what's the organization like? What's the school? What's the training group? Obviously, for who is listening, it could be interesting to get in touch with you, to get training. How does it work as a format of training?
Well, like I said, I tell Claudio it's Piper's 28 years old, and I've tried every form of organization around. Um, how I've been handling Piper, because it's a very specialized skill, so you don't get that many people interested, right? Because very brutal, so it's very savage. Um, the Germans actually love Piper quite a lot because the way I teach it, because I have a chemistry background, I have a scientific background, so I teach it like the blueprints when you build a watch. So it's very very organized the way that I teach it. So I teach Piper like you're actually putting up the pieces of a watch together. So
Yeah.
that's why the Germans like it so much. I teach one-on-one, so I train everyone, like personally, because I want to make sure everybody has the best skills. I don't want to find out like 5 generations below me that somebody is struggling with Piper, because it's such a specialized skill. And look, I do this full time, so I actually have the capacity to teach everyone individually, because I take pride in, it's a killing method. So you have to be very careful how this person is getting the information. So
Yes.
that's why you can ask Claudio. I'm easy to get a hold of. I'm easy to speak to. You don't have to go through all these things to get to me. You just send me a message, and what I do is, and this is the other thing. Piper, like any knife system, can be taught online, specifically for one reason,
Okay.
because any knife training is first contact. It's not like jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai. You can't learn Muay Thai online. You have to be in the ring with the person. You have to be on the mat rolling in jiu-jitsu. The knife is different because the first contact is fatal. That you can't say that about boxing. You can't say that about karate, judo. So with the blade, the first time I touch you is lethal. So as I was saying, so any blade training, like you don't need to fight another knife in order for this to be effective, because with pipe, what the knife is that the first time you touch the human body, it could be fatal, right? And I explained to Claudia the thing about South Africa and why our crime rate, our knife crime is so high, is because here we have a one hit, one kill culture. You don't see multiple stab wounds on the Cape Flats. You see one guy just getting one stab wound and it's over. at a fundamental level. Like if you have five criminals or 5 gangsters surrounding you and they stab you, only one guy gets to stab you, and he stabs you just once. Because it's the easiest thing to kill someone here with one shot, because that's the level at which these people operate.
Nigel,
so
do you
I'm
have
not skilled. I'm
some
average.
Do you have some specific targets that you use and you train for those specific targets, and so you don't train others? Like you said, you don't train to cut on the arms. You don't cut. Maybe you don't train to cut on the jacket, because we have a jacket in winter. So maybe if I go on my motorcycle, I have a jacket, but maybe the knife doesn't cut on it. So I use just specific cuts. For example, I don't
No, you don't want to cut
I
anyway.
don't want to say nasty things, but the eyes, for example, the stab to the eyes and to the neck, for example.
So what about that?
Do you have some specific targets that you only train those targets every time, and the ways to reach those targets?
Yeah. You have to find out what the criminals are doing, because they're doing something right. Okay, so I'm going to reverse engineer this, because these people are able to effectively fight off other criminals. Remember, if you're a gangster, other gangsters hate you more, right? So where they stab in order to survive, that's where you stab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you stay away from the eye, because the blade gets stuck in the eye. You stay away from that. So you stab in the neck, the left side of the neck, the carotid. Yeah. You don't cut, you stab. Because even if you miss the carotid, just that pulling motion with the blade, you'll be able to hit the carotid. And here's the thing about the neck. You could stab anywhere on the neck and it will still be dangerous. It will still be deadly, specifically because the neck is so condensed. Everything is squeezed in. There's no empty space in the neck. So even if you're stabbing in the muscle, it's going to have an effect on the guy. It will break his structure. You'll see that when you stab in the heart, we stab 2 finger breadths below the left nipple, and then 4 finger breadths above the left nipple. Those are the two targets that you see on dead bodies. That's how I got the researchers, like everybody stabs there. So so in PIPER, you are given at least 3 to 4, and that's it. You know, you count the subclavian as well. They don't hit the femoral; they hit the top areas. They don't want you to bleed out. They want you to feel it immediately, right? So if you only train 4 targets or 3 targets, you can only remember 3, and you don't forget anything. So it's easy to remember, and there's nothing to forget. But if you have like 30 targets, how are you gonna access?
We are talking about the OODA loop. The multiple targets. I have to remember and train many things. I have more options. I want just a few options. I train 50 years of my life on those one.
Yeah.
And I'm legal.
So I teach. So my first class, I teach you one stab and 1 target, so that if I don't see you again, you know 1 stab and 1 target, and you will never forget it, because that's all you know.
Yeah.
Right. A killing system universally does the same thing every time. Any killing system over the last 5,000 years of combat will do the exact same thing. A killing system is a hunting system. A fighting system is a sparring system. That is how you know. Any killing system. So these are the 4 pillars of a killing system. It's universal throughout the world, it includes wild animals as well, predators. So we're looking at assassins. You're looking at like samurai, Knights Templar, Spartans, Romans, Zulus, Syrians, Persians, everyone. It's 4 things every killing system will have. The first one is they will have an attacking structure or posture, right? In other words, the way they're going to attack, their body will tell you they're going to attack, right? The structure will tell you that this guy's able to kill. That's the first one. The second one is the efficacy or the efficiency of killing, meaning they can kill within the first 3 movements of the entire system. So the first 3 movements of your method or your killing system or your martial art, you must be able to kill within the first 3 movements. Right? That's a killing system. And the third thing is there's no defense. There's no outside concept of defense. The defense is taken care of in the first point, which is the posture. If you look at a tiger, a lion, you look at the knights, they have armor. Their defense is built into their skin. If you look at Piper, for instance, the defense is built here. Right? It's built here where my elbows are. My elbows are protecting both sides of the weakest parts of my ribs and protects the heart. So my defense is actually in my attack posture. So the defense is already added, is already included. A tiger doesn't defend himself while he's attacking a wild animal. He's making sure that a lot of his body isn't in the way of being damaged, right? And the fourth pillar of a killing system is intent. That in that sequence is a killing system. If you don't have intent, now intent is not here. Intent is here. That's the difference. See? That's when they say you don't have the heart to do something. The heart actually means the intent. You have to have that in order to kill. And here's the thing, because my father, my grandfather, he was a butcher. He killed his own animals. So if you don't have the heart to actually like kill an animal, you're going to struggle doing this to a human.
Okay. Max, I would like to do one question, then I leave everything to you if you have some curiosity. I want to ask one question. I hope I don't steal the question from you. Nigel, I am a footwork maniac. I really love footwork. I love to move and study the way, the angles and the geometries and everything to be in the right position for me, in the wrong position for you. And also, we were talking about fighting styles, like sports. We stay there and fight. In boxing, I can catch a jab, a hook, or something. In the street, I cannot catch just one stab because it can be the last one. So how important is for the Piper method to have the footwork, and how does it work?
Well, see, if you train in South Africa, if you're just studying Piper here and you live here, you'll actually have a little bit more footwork. The problem is that once you're, because Piper only works well in clinch range. Once I grab you, once you're in contact with me, once I'm within elbow range, then footwork is irrelevant, because your lungs and heart, they can't move around. Once you got a hold of someone, their vitals are in the same spot. We could be moving back and forth, but your vital targets will still be in the same spot. Right now, footwork is like I said, if you train in South Africa, it's going to be different, because here people want to show you that you're fighting. The only footwork you're going to need in clinch fighting is the ability to, well, in this case, if they're attacking you, you don't have any say in terms of the range. Anytime it's an ambush, if you claim self-defense as a self-defense, then the criminal has decided the range for you. So if the criminals decided the range for you, your footwork means little. So what I have used for Piper is the footwork from sports, because they know how to move the body better than anybody else. Because in sports, they use the body correctly, because if you don't use the body correctly, you will lose at that sport. Tennis, rugby, soccer, basketball, those are the types of sports that will help you move your body better. So that's what I've been deriving a lot of the footwork from, in terms of moving the hips, the knees, creating explosivity, I use sports. I don't go to the martial arts, because the martial arts has been designed for one-on-one fighting. If you look at the footwork that we see in current day martial arts, it's all based on the duel, one-on-one. It doesn't take into consideration multiple targets. Based on the footwork will tell you how many people you are facing.
Okay.
Interesting. So expanding on there, do you train multiple attackers?
Yeah. So everything in PIPER that you see is actually for multiple attackers. It's not for one-on-one.
Okay.
Everything you'll see, a lot of the angles that I'm doing is actually mostly for your 3-on-1s, 4-on-1s. That's when your footwork starts changing. That's when you start learning footwork, because now there's more dimensions being added, because your target is not standing in front here. There's a guy to your left and a guy to your right. And then there's a guy behind you. So now you're not facing all of them at the same time.
Yeah.
You see, so that's when your footwork starts changing. Now, when your footwork starts changing, your body direction changes.
Fantastic. Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting. How well, I go back to my previous question. So if people wants to get in touch and get training and expand, is there a curriculum to be followed? Is there like a short curriculum, a long curriculum? How do you design teaching?
No, it's like I said, I've been doing it for 28 years. So PIPER has we've actually got three. It's only got three structures. So it's 3 ranks. So the first one is your apprentice, is the people that are starting out. Then you train and you become a PIPER instructor. That is usually if you have a pre-existing school in the martial arts. You shouldn't be a PIPER instructor and just do that. You should have teaching ranks in other knife systems, stick systems, grappling, kickboxing. If you have sports-based backgrounds, that would be even better. And then the guys at the very top of PIPER are the guys that just train. They are called PIPER guardians. So these are the guys that teach your seminars worldwide. They don't have a school or anything to look after. They just focus on training, getting better, and they just travel. So those are the options available it's usually based on the person's need, because some guys don't like to be part of a group. They want to do this alone, and then you get other guys, like a lot of the European groups, that like to have a community. Yes. So those two ranks will help either or. Like I said, Claudio might like to be alone, but you might like to train as part of a group. So at least I can cater to both types of individual.
Yeah, I remember seeing. I was traveling for work to Germany, and I remember seeing some PIPER and maybe Libre. There was someone that was teaching both. Yeah. Yeah,
it's usually a brother-sister art. Those are the only two that they kind of because Libre has got some elements of PIPER in it. Because remember, PIPER was the first criminal-based knife system, meaning the source of its techniques were from the criminal. So it's the first of its kind. So it then affected and influenced all the other knife systems that is not Filipino martial arts in the world.
I see. Yeah, I'm friend with the backstabbers up in Helsinki, and I think
Finland.
they do. Yeah. So I've been exchanging stuff, and mainly for Sugbo, Baro Sugbo, but also last time we were talking about the rest of the knife work they do. So that was quite interesting.
Nigel, do you teach some military? And if the answer is yes, do you do something different for them?
Well, like I said, I used to teach military back in the day. Not the military, though. That's just sad. South Africa's military is not, we don't talk about them. So I go overseas and I'll train the military and like some police units, because again, the Europeans and the Americans are very open to that. South Africa is just too much politics, and some of the systems are quite it's quite difficult to get, because our military is not based in South Africa. They are deployed outside of South Africa. They're not allowed inside, like in other countries. So they're used as a peacekeeping force by the UN. So we don't have contact with them. We don't see them unless the gang violence is so great the president has to actually sign, a declaration to have the military take care of the gang violence if the police can't handle it. With regards to military, so when you train Piper to the military, it's like when you train Pikiti Tertia to the military or any other knife system, is that you are allowed to teach more brutal methods because the government protects those people when they go out, and they can actually slit throats and decapitate people and open the chest because the government protects those soldiers when they do that. As civilians, we don't have that protection. That's the difference between when the military uses the knife and civilians use the knife. See, because the government is the employer of the soldier. So they give them permission to go out and do those things, saying that if it happens in a conflict in the middle of a battlefield, that's fine, as long as you take care of the enemy. We don't get to say that as civilians. So that's the big difference. That's why I'm not a big fan of military knife systems being taught to civilians. That's not a good thing because they don't have a civilian court to answer to.
Clear.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point.
Max, hai qualche altra cosa da domandare?
No, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Okay. I have one last question. Do you usually, for example, if you train some military, do you teach them directly with left, with the second hand, or do you teach the first hand? Because usually they use in the first hand, they use the gun. If they lose the gun, maybe it's because they were wounded or something, so they don't have the gun anymore in one hand. It's not capable to use it, and so they have to use the other one for the knife. Maybe you lock my hand like that, so I have to take out the knife with my left, or use shot into my right, so I have to use my left. Do you have some differences for that?
Well, so I do because everything about Piper is so close. My speciality is having you do Piper when you are injured, when you have flu, when you're ill, when you have a fever. I'm able to do that without expending a lot of energy. So any form of combat that has you use a lot of cardio means you can't use it when you're sick. You can't use it when you're injured. So if you look at some of the postures, you could still dislocate or blow out your shoulder and you still be able to do Piper, specifically because I wouldn't have to stretch out my arm. Now, the fact that with police and military that they have their sidearm, I usually teach the left specifically because with military and police, you can teach them drawing because they're going to be drawing from the same spot all the time. See, drawing only works if you have a uniform because the uniform is the same clothing you wear every day, and that knife will be found in that same spot every day. But if you're a civilian, you have to constantly practice drawing from different, because I have different pants every day. Even my t-shirt, it's summer in South Africa now, but what happens in winter, then because we get all our rain in winter, I'm wearing a raincoat. So how am I going to draw the blade then? Under how many layers of clothing? So the police and military are actually easier to teach because their weapons are all out. You could actually see it. Like, they're able to pull it. They're able to pull from wherever, but you can't do that for the civilians. So with the military, they are being taught drawing and then drawing and stabbing with the weak hand, because the dominant hand is the firearm. And I also find out, who's the left-handed people in the class, because again, your military and police, these people, they train differently because their life depends on them, using these skills. But civilians, I mean, we can go through our whole life not being involved in any altercation, because we are encouraged to move away from danger, whereas your military and police, they have to go towards danger. So the guarantee of them actually getting injured is quite high, and getting killed is quite high. So they get trained differently because we know they're going to need to use the train. They're gonna use the training just to get home at night.
Okay.
So for
Nigel,
civilians, you train already the knife already withdrawn, or you always start from drawing?
No, the knife needs to be. You'll notice in all my videos over the last 30 years, you'll see all the times when the knife was already in my hand. If you look at my reels on Instagram, Facebook, wherever, you'll see I'm already assuming that you've got the knife drawn. So I'll have it here. The blade's already in my hand, because whatever situation requires a civilian to actually use a blade means that situation was something they could have seen at some point. Because remember, yes, the key. When people say yes, but sometimes it's a surprise attack. Now I says, hang on. Anytime, and we have it in Cape Town, anytime criminals run up to you and pull out firearms and start shooting just you, that's not a proper crime. That was an assassination, which meant they knew who you were long before they came and drew guns, right? Nobody starts shooting somebody and then rob them afterwards. It's very rare that you see those types of things. But if they come and they see, say Claudio goes out with his family and there's lots of people, and these guys come past all those people and just shoot you, that's an assassination. It's a hit on your life. That's got nothing to do with actual crime that we're talking about, right? That we need to make a clear distinction. That is an assassination. That is very different from a random act of crime. They after my car, my clothing, or my money. They just targeted me. They didn't know that's Nigel over there. You forget him. You see, so I'm very specific about when you, as a civilian, you go outside your house. It's risky. So you have to make sure that if you're in a foreign place, a park, and there's people you don't know, you have to pull that knife already and hide it on you. You keep it with you, hide it on you. Practice that skill using what you call sleight of hand. Sleight of hand, make the blade disappear. Keep it on you so you could actually use. I mean, I could do this with a big blade and you make it disappear. And I have, it looks like I'm just relaxed, right? Civilians need to learn those skills, magician skills. Your police and military doesn't have to, because their weapons are on the outside of their clothing, right? So they don't have to hide anything. They just have to be ready for engagement, right? Because they're going towards the danger. That is the I would say the big difference between us. So to answer your question, yes, civilians need to have that knife drawn if it's not on familiar territory.
Okay. Max, do you have some other question?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Nigel, do you want to say something about your method of fighting, your research, some messages that you want to send to the martial arts communities? Some specific stuff?
So the original mandate for me creating PIPER was for the martial artists to change the uke, the knife attacker that's in the dojo, to make him more realistic so that he can dominate, and then you build better knife defenses. You see, I can't give you a knife defense as is. You first have to die inside the dojo, but with a very superior, very dominant, very skilled knife attacker, and then you'll discover that you'll die less every time. Okay, because remember, your opponent determines your skill. If you beat the world champion in boxing, that means that you're good. But if you're just beating a 70-year-old man that's in a wheelchair, that doesn't mean your skill is determined by how good your competition is. So that goes for your knife, like the level of skill that you can handle in your dojo will determine that. And jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu is actually a good example. In jiu-jitsu, why people are so good is because you fight for every position. Nothing is given to you. You want to break someone's arm or wrist, you're gonna have to fight for that, right? So jiu-jitsu is a very good example of what it means when you're fighting against someone better than you that will make you better. That is like they are the perfect example that we can see every day. Brazilian jiu-jitsu would be this is what I want knife fighting to be like, or knife training. Knife training should be like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, where you constantly fighting. If you're a white belt, you're constantly fighting against black belts and losing, but you get better. So your knife attacker needs to beat you consistently, and then you will start developing tactics, not knife defenses, but tactics. Learning how to keep distance. Like PIPER, you could beat easily if you keep your distance. That's when that footwork comes in, is to maintain distance. Once PIPER gets to within this range, it's over. For me as well, right? So anything can be beaten, but you don't fight the creature in his preferred range. That's like the number one rule of hunting, is like you make sure that if it's like a lion, you know how quickly a lion can cover 100 meters. So you start shooting from like further back. You don't shoot when you're like 2 meters from the lion, right? So that's how you learn to take this thing down. And again, I would advise everybody, as far as possible, try not to engage with a knife if you empty hand. This goes for everyone. This goes, including me. Right?
Okay.
If you don't have things like pepper spray, the pepper spray is still it's still the most, for me, the most effective and non-lethal and legal tool that you can use. You don't want to be engaging or touching anything that has a knife, right? Because you don't know what's in this man's heart. You don't know the level that he's at the moment.
Yeah. Do you use some protective gears like glasses or body armor, something like that, to use the knives?
No, you don't. You don't need to. You don't need any of that type of training with the blade, specifically because the dead bodies we've already had. They didn't need the people who stabbed those people to death. They didn't need that type of training to do it. They just needed the will to do it. That's it. So, having that type of training, like I don't have to stab, I don't have to hit you or punch you on the chest hard. I just need to stab you with a little bit of pressure to break skin. So, that might work for other types of training, for batons, sticks, where you're using body armor. But with a knife, you just need to hit vital areas, soft areas. Like you don't be stabbing in the arms and don't stab in the large muscle groups. The upper bodies, like the back. Don't stab there. You're just wasting your time. You want to hit the soft areas. Windpipe, want to hit the carotid and jugulars. You want to hit these subclavians. That's where you want to hit. Stick to one target. And don't change, because sometimes people don't even know that they were stabbed because you're hitting muscle groups. So if a guy's high on adrenaline, you won't even feel that he was stabbed, and he's still gonna hurt you.
Okay. Nigel, just tell us where, when, and how we can find you in Instagram, Facebook, or something like that. Your contacts.
Well, You can find me on Facebook. I use my full name, Nigel E. Febrary. Then I'm 23 Guardians on Instagram. So it's quite easy to find me. You'll see my page, a lot of Piper videos and stuff on there, a lot of reels. So like I said, I'm available via Instagram Messenger, Facebook Messenger. Those of you that want to contact me by email, my Gmail is 23guardians@gmail.com.
Okay, perfect. Everything is in the description of this video. You can find every contact about Nigel below this video. I would like to thank you for accepting my invitation. Max, also to you. It's a pleasure. Every time we see each other, it's a pleasure. And thank you, guys. It was really, really nice to speak with you. And Nigel, I hope if you come to Napoli to look to watch the Vesuvius and Pompeii, stuff like that, or Caserta, if you want to see the Reggia, the King Palace, stuff like that, just let me know. If you come here for a good pizza.
No, I'm a student of history. I love that type of. That's why I knew southern Italy. I knew that was the old part of Italy.
Yeah. The best part.
Hey.
Okay. Guys, once again, thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Nigel. Absolutely a pleasure.
I will invite
thanks for having me.
If you want, if it's good for you, I will invite you in the future once again. Maybe next year if you want. So just let me know. It's a pleasure. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys.
Okay.
Thank you,
Max,
Nigel.
grazie anche a te. Thank you, Max.
Grazie anche a te, Claudio. Ciao.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.